also ended the show talking about an article in the Sun newspaper in London that said the single biggest threat that President Xi of China sees is not the United States military or the United States or some combination of NATO and the United States or even our allies in the littoral nations around the South China Sea or India. The biggest single threat he sees is 300 million Catholics and Christians that are now coming, that are underground in China and growing every day. And he thinks that's a direct threat to their materialistic, atheistic dictatorship. And so I think everything in the world breaks down to these kind of two groups: populist, nationalist, traditionalist, what I would call humanists, people of faith, and people that believe in the humans were made in the image and likeness of God, and that our rights as humans come directly from God, versus the globalist, elitist, secularist / atheist, transhumanist. And I think a lot of these, and I would tell everybody in your audience, particularly the importance of the church militant crowd, you really start getting up to speed with this whole concept of transhumanism. What's going on in our laboratories, these are business decisions that are made. But if people think it's tough now, you haven't seen tough. It's going to get a lot tougher. This is a fight for the control of the greatest country in the world, the most powerful nation in the history of mankind. Don't think it's going to be a garden party, because it's not. And people sit there every day. It's so depressing. It's so terrible. You know what I tell them? Get over it. Right. I'm tired of hearing you whining. I'm tired of hearing you sucking your thumb. Go back and look at the first century Christians. Look at what the Catholic Church has had to come through throughout its history. We stand on the shoulders of giants. This country and the church, we stand on the shoulders of giants of what they've had to come down to bequeath us what we have from both the church and in this American Republic, and we are obligated to honor them by working nonstop, day in and day out, so that we can bequeath it as it was given to us, only better, not worse, or not destroyed certainly, or we'll be cursed by the next 100 generations. So this is why I say you don't have a choice.
Right.
If you're a practicing Catholic, you have to be at the front lines. If you're not at the front lines, then you're not a practicing Catholic. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You don't really believe the underlying tenets of this. Well, last thing I want to say, you go back to first century Rome and Nero's persecution. Remember, the church was in Jerusalem, it was in Antioch, it was in Corinth, it was all these different places, and to the Gentiles it was in Rome. All those other churches, it didn't really stick, it didn't get traction. It got traction in Rome. Why? That was where the most brutal persecution was. That's
right.
Where the church had to come together and really rethink every day what it was about. This is why I said on the show, and I believe this, I think the leadership, because I think the West, to be brutally frank, and the United States, we've done a terrible job as leadership of Christianity and Catholicism. I think you see that, it was Cardinal Sarah said, about the decadence of the West. And I think he's not just a great man, would make such a fantastic pope. And you hear his searing indictment of the West.
Yeah.
Well, the leadership, what's going to happen in the 21st century is the Chinese people are going to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. And how are they going to overthrow it? One of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, is Christianity and Catholicism. Xi knows this. He's seen the other results of these other dictatorships. He fears more than anything the Christians and the Catholics. Okay? And when that's thrown off, I think you're going to see the leadership in the church in the 21st century really be the Chinese people that were so persecuted. They're like the first century Roman Christians who were persecuted by the state apparatus. Yeah. In this regard, the Chinese Communist Party is just Nero, right? It's got the same decadence, the same inhumanity, the same totalitarian control. Not just did Christianity come through that, that's what really gave the church the explosive power to have this growth, because they were passing on the word of Christ. Remember, the most powerful of all the Gospels, St. Mark's Gospel, was written during the height of the persecution, probably in all likelihood dictated by St. Peter to his secretary Mark during the height of the persecution. In that Gospel today, if you read it, the power that comes through the Gospel of St. Mark, the power of the action of Christ in his life and his teaching, in his action, in his confrontation with evil, is so powerful today. Is like the day it was written, right? You can feel the living Christ through there. That was in a time of massive persecution. That's what's going on in China today.
Yeah, hopefully you're right.